So we're going to go through the Telnyx resources. We're going to be distributing this after the event as well. What I'd like to do before we get down to all the Telnyx stuff is just a couple of mentions. First of all, thank you for all the hacks that were submitted last week. They were impressive. I'm amazed what was able to be achieved from undergraduates all the way through to sort of hardcore geeks that produced and contributed to some of the open source projects. But our focus now is Telnyx TADHack, and we're going to be focusing on voice AI. So this is a new endeavor for Telnyx, so I'm really keen to understand what they've got and all the stuff they're going to enable you to build. So what I'll do is I'll introduce Michael, if you could basically kick things off, and then we'll hand over to James, who'll be going through the resources. Okay?
Great. Hey, everyone. My name is Michael Bracci, and I work within the marketing department here at Telnyx, and we're very excited to be joining Alan with this season's TADHack. So for anyone who's not familiar, Telnyx, we're a communications and AI infrastructure company that offers developers and enterprises direct programmable access to the global telephony network, plus the compute needed to run real-time voice AI, all in one stack, right? So think of us as a full stack CPaaS platform that replaces separate carriers, aggregators, and AI hosts with a single set of cloud APIs. So right now, really, we've pivoted into this, obviously, the AI piece. As you all know, AI is taking over. Of course, we still have our traditional products. We have our voice and our SIP trunking, and if anyone's looking for us to use our messaging SMS API, our voice API products are still there. But really, the focus right now is our voice AI product, particularly our voice AI assistant. And we're very, again, excited to be working with TADHack. And we're very excited to see what everyone can build with our AI assistant builder.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you so much, Michael. And we have James, Telnyx's resident geek, to run through the resources. So, James, how are you?
Perfect. Thanks, Alan. I'm doing great. Nice to see everybody here, and happy to run through a bunch of. It sounds like we have people from a lot of different backgrounds, so I'm going to start with bare basics, and then time permitting, we'll see how far we can get into some of the more advanced functionality. But yeah, I'm happy to. Is it a good time to just kick off, share my screen, and start walking folks through things? Perfect. Okay, so I will start just looking at the landing page for the Telnyx TADHack event, so I can show people, if you're on this page, how to get started looking at our resources. So you can just go down to the resources section and click on Dev Docs. And this is going to be a quick start for building voice assistants using Telnyx. And you can get up and running very quickly, no code needed. It'll just be an entire point and click experience in the portal to start interacting with an assistant. But I'll show you, I'm basically going to walk through the portal and go through most of the functionality you'd find in this quick start to show you what you can layer on top of that. So I'm going to jump to the portal, and I'm hoping you all are following me when I change tabs. My screen share, you're seeing the portal now?
Yeah, we can see AI assistants, yeah.
Perfect. So this is inside the Telnyx Mission Control portal, and then just to get your bearings, we have an AI storage and compute section on the navigation bar on the left, and I'm looking at AI assistants. So to get started really quickly, I can create an assistant. I can do a blank template where I'm starting from scratch and give my own instructions. Or I can pick from one of our preloaded templates. So if I select into this, it's going to set up a ton of configuration that hopefully I'll be able to cover all of it, what we actually set up there on this call. But it'll do it all for you, and it'll set you up for calling, and you can immediately just jump in. I don't know if you're going to hear this audio, but you can just jump in and actually be talking to an assistant. No audio coming through, but
no audio, no.
Okay, let me see if I can. It might be nice to be able to. Anyway, I heard the audio, and you're talking to an assistant for that. Share computer sound. Let's do that. Let's try that one more time. Let's see if you hear it.
Hi there. This is Erica from Tech Solutions Customer Support.
Oh, cool. So then you can have a real-time voice conversation with this assistant. And we've just preloaded with instructions for the assistant in terms of guiding behavior, tone, things of that nature, a greeting that you're going to hear every time.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump to the just basic assistant I was playing around with here. So to start to give you a sense of all your different options for configuration for an assistant. So I'm just going to go through every section here, and if people have questions, if they have areas they're interested in hearing more about, just feel free to hop in, interrupt me, ask questions. I'll try to, I would love for this to be a conversation. I'm hoping I'm not just going to be talking to everybody for an hour. So yeah, just let me know if anything doesn't make sense or you want to dig deeper into something.
Cool.
So name, pretty self-explanatory. That's just for your own reference. Model is the underlying intelligence for the voice assistant. So you have several options here. Like Michael alluded to, you can configure an assistant to be full stack on Telnyx. So the default model here is our flagship open source language model that's running on Telnyx infrastructure. And from a cost and from a latency perspective, that's going to be your best bet.
Gotcha.
But if you want other models, if you have a favorite, you can beat away. So we can show a few of the favorites for folks here. So you can use Gemini with Google. You can use GPT-4o with OpenAI. There's a much longer list, but we don't want to overwhelm people.
Yeah.
So if you do select another model from another provider, you just need to also provide a reference to your API key. You can do that in line here. So we store that securely on our end for you. You click here, you name it for yourself, you paste the API key in here, and then your assistant will always use that during live calls.
Gotcha.
Instructions are the heart of guiding the assistant's behavior. It's just natural language. You just tell it what you want it to do. There's a lot of helpful context you can provide on a per call basis for your assistant. So if you want to have basically a general set of instructions that's templated out that would always apply to any call, but then you want to inject specific details for a specific call, we call those dynamic variables.
Okay.
You can see some highlighted in green here. So these are system variables that we provide for everybody. For instance, current time, super useful, necessary for things, especially like scheduling use cases. You're going to want the assistant to know exactly what time it is right now. Conversation channel would be, in this case, like it's going to be a web call, but maybe if you're calling in from a landline, it would come in as a phone call. Okay. We do support messaging for assistants, so maybe this is an SMS chat. And you might want the assistant to behave a little differently, talk a little differently, depending on which channel they're actually coming through. And so that just lets the assistant know which channel the conversation is happening in.
Cool.
This is some information about the to and from number, essentially, in the case of phone calls. So what's the agent's number? What's the end user's number?
Gotcha.
You can also create custom variables yourself. And there are several mechanisms for you to set those at the beginning when the call is being initiated.
Okay.
So I have an example here where, say, in my greeting, I want to personalize this. So we're always going to greet them with their first name.
Gotcha.
I have a default placeholder here. I can also link out to a tutorial to learn a lot more about all the different ways. Sorry, do we have a question?
No, Linda's just joined. So there you go. He's put it on mute.
So there's several ways to set the dynamic variables. And you can read through them on this guide. I don't want to go through all of them right now, but if people are curious, happy to circle back and talk through all the different ways you can configure that.
And you support RAG in this as well? So if like I've got a PDF and I want to use that to help sort of guide the conversation, is that possible?
We do. And we have that under our knowledge bases section here.
Gotcha.
So yes, you can let's just go over and talk about that. So you can copy in. I have a ton that I've created, but you can also just create a new knowledge base that have test RAG demo.
Cool.
Create the knowledge base. And then after I go ahead and create the knowledge base, I can just drag and drop files right here. or I can enter, maybe I have a marketing website and I want the assistant to have access to that. I can enter the URL
Perfect.
here, and that'll give it access on a live call. It may choose or may not choose to actually access that when it's answering questions.
Understood.
James, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
When you're using a model on the screen,
Mhm.
notice you had some Google models that you can
Mhm.
use. Do you need to authenticate with the provider of the model, or is that included with your Telnyx subscription?
Telnyx, if it's an open source model, then Telnyx will be running it on our own infrastructure. If it's a closed source model that's using a third-party API, when you select the model, a new API key field will also appear here, and you'll be prompted to, if you haven't already, you won't see any here. I've configured a ton for different demos. You'll be able to hit the little plus icon here, and then you'll be giving it a human readable identifier just for your own reference, and then you'll be pasting in one time the API key, and then you save it, and then we'll use it securely for all the API requests during a voice call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Last thing to jump into here is all the different tools that'll give your voice assistant different functionalities. So I've configured 2 here, but you can see the whole drop down. Tons of useful building blocks just for programmatically changing the phone call. So hang up, you can see it selected. You can enable your voice assistant to be able to choose to hang up the conversation. We also support transfers, where you provide the number you're transferring from your list of numbers, and then you can have any number of targets here where you give a human readable name. So maybe it's human customer support agent, right?
Yeah.
With a number, and then on a live call, somebody says, I want to talk to a human. This is how the language model would know.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to issue a transfer based on this name.
Understood. We've got a question on the chat. So this is from Mike, and he's asking, to start testing, do we create an account on the portal and then ask in Discord to get the test credits? So just the basic process of setting up. They're just
in terms of the testing credits, I think it would be better if you just out Alan to part of the follow-up with the recording.
Yeah,
I'd rather have that sent through the email versus through a public.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. So only those that have registered, we send the ID. Okay. So you'll get those details. Okay. Cool. Okay. Sorry about that, James.
Oh, no worries. Send DATMF. So let a voice assistant be able to hit the keypad, interact with maybe a legacy IVR. You can use that. And then one really powerful and flexible tool is our webhook tool, where you can specify basically any public RESTful API. You just tell the language model which parameters you need it to fill out and sort of the structure of the request here. So you can select, is it a GET, POST, what kind of endpoint is it?
Yeah.
Pass in the URL. You can do some cool stuff here. Example.com. You can have path variables like this. So with this syntax, that'll pop in here. So this is, maybe you have per user or something. You want the language model to be able to choose different behavior. So this is how you specify that. You can also, the dynamic variables, a little bit different, put dynamic here. So we mentioned dynamic variables. We actually save this. So you can see how that looks for test. Can't see that. You can also pass dynamic variables in. So if the endpoint that you want to hit changes based on a specific aspect of the call, that's how you configure that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you can have this, you can configure this to have access to basically any RESTful API. And I can show some more complete assistants that have some more detailed examples for that. But it lets your voice agent basically make any API request you need it to on a live call, and then incorporate the results of that request into the conversation.
Okay, that's clear. Now, Amandu asked a question, and this is really for me. If you've already registered for VCon, you're automatically included in the Telnyx registration as well. Because I initially started asking people, it's like, well, you're registered for VCon. Do you want to do Telnyx? And it was like everybody was wanting to do Telnyx. So I was like, okay, it's just automatic. So you're registered for both, Amandu, okay? Sorry, James.
No worries, no worries. Cool. And we try to make it really easy for you to test webhooks. So if you before you get on a live call, so you don't have to like mess around talking to an agent, you can just make sure, okay, this looks like it's configured correctly. In the portal. You can get a bunch of assistants to help out with the same context and the same conversation, and they'll also use the same voice here. So this is a good way if you want to like build out specialists that have core areas of ownership. Maybe you have a scheduling assistant and a billing assistant, and you want them all to FAQ assistant. You want them all to be able to sort of hand off on a single call, so that it's a nice experience for the user. This is same idea as a transfer, but we call a handoff, and it instead of actually transferring a real call, this will just be a lightweight handoff of responsibility to another assistant.
It just helps with the caller. They have context. I'm now dealing with the scheduling rather than I'm back to the billing issue. So that's cool. Thanks.
Cool. So this is all the agent tab. I think of as sort of the core intelligence and behavior of the assistant. Voice tab, we have a ton of different voices that just so you get the assistant to actually sound exactly how you want it to sound. Again, here we will default to the models the text-to-speech models that we run on premise. Going to be your best bet from a price and from a latency perspective, but we do have other providers as well. And it's the same idea in terms of bringing your own API key here. So if you select an 11 Labs API key, we'll pull in the models that you have available on your 11 Labs account. You can play around with them in the portal here. This so you can like some example speech from one of these voices.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
And then you can play your own whatever here. So this is just to help you iterate quickly on getting the exact voice you want.
Yep, understood. But you can use all the defaults within basically the Telnyx package, which makes it, of
you
course,
you don't have to set any of this in order to get started.
Perfect.
Cool.
Now, Hope, Hope has just joined. So we're just running through the model. It's all recorded, so you'll be able to review afterwards on what we've covered earlier. Okay, go for it, James.
All right, we did already cover knowledge bases. Insights are post-call, either unstructured or structured analysis that give you insight on a per-call basis to what happened during the call. So by default, you'll get set up with something like this, where it just gives you a quick little 3 to 5 sentence summary. Yeah. And then I'll just jump quickly to conversation history, where you can view all the conversations. You come in here, you'll be able to view the assistant or the insight that you configured for your assistant on a per call basis. This is set up to be very flexible. So you can create your own custom insights. You come down here. You can also set up a webhook URL if you want to actually receive, as soon as the insights are generated at the end of the conversation, you can receive them via this URL. But you can put whatever you want here. So like tell me the sentiment of the call, and then by default it's unstructured, and so this will just be a paragraph of a language model telling you what it thought the sentiment of the call is. But you can also track this as structured data, and so you can type in any name of fields like sentiment scale. You can say I want that to be an enum, or I want it to be the only values I want you to say are for every call are bad, fair, good, great, or whatever, right? You can type this in here. You can do booleans, integers. You can make fields required or not. You can have multiple parameters here. So just very granular, structured data for your use case about what you want to capture on a per call basis.
Great.
Cool. You do not need a Telnyx phone number assigned to your assistant in order to interact with that. I think we saw that at the beginning of here, where we just created an assistant and it worked out of the box. So you can just call your assistant straight from this calling tab as well. But this also does let you, if you do have numbers with Telnyx, or if you want to search and buy a number, you can then assign it. And when you do this, you can call that number, and your assistant will pick up the phone and talk to you just like it would through the browser.
Gotcha. Cool. That's clear.
Jamie, is it worth doing a quick demo of how one would get a phone number from Telnyx?
Sure.
Because that's always the fun bit, because then you can use your phone.
Yep. Right-hand bit over here, real-time communications, numbers, by numbers. And then you're going through and searching here, so you can select the country you want. You do need voice.
Yeah.
You may want HD voice, but for demos or for like basic purposes, voice will work here. And then you can search by any number of things here, right? So if I'm in Chicago and I want to search for a 312 number, I can go ahead and that didn't stick. Search for 312 number. You can see them all here. Add to cart. Cool. Get back to where I was here.
And it's $100 worth of credit, is it?
Yes.
Excellent. So you've got cash and you can spend it to get a number. But fingers crossed, I mean, this is the power with Telnyx. It's just, all the countries they cover. So you can do something local. It doesn't have to be just US-centric. So well, that'll be nice. I think we'll definitely see some demos including those capabilities. So go for it, James.
Cool. Messaging, I may not cover. There's a long messaging you need to comply with NDLC, and so there's a lot of sort of lead time you need in order to set that up. So I probably will not cover that here, but we do support any phone conversation you can have with Assistant. You could have it be via text message as well.
Understood. We got one more question. What if we need more credits? So I guess that falls to your domain, Michael. If somebody burns through the $100, or you know what happens? It gets to final demo time, or they're demoing after,
and they're out.
They're out. That's it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll take that as a case by case basis. So
understood. Perfect.
Out, and we'll provide you with some additional credits. That's not a problem.
So if you're building something, focused on a demo, not beyond a demo, it's like you want to try and build something and get it into customers' hands, then I'm sure you'll find the Telnyx guys are more than happy to help you build a business like that, because they want you using this for commercial reality. So again, just get on that Discord channel and have a chat with the guys. All right, cool. Sorry, James. I know we're keeping.
Oh no, that's great. That's good. That's good. I was hoping it would be back and forth. Conversation history tab. You can just see every conversation you've had or someone else has had with your assistant. I'll just show you what it looks like here. So, the end user on the right.
Yeah.
This is the assistant on the left, and then this is very helpful for debugging. When you start getting into tool calls, you're going to want to see what did the assistant actually call on this call. What did it get back? So you can help figure out where the issue is.
Gotcha.
I set this up with just a test site, so there's nothing actually coming through here. But the assistant will also tell you that on the call, right? Because it has access to this. You can see it chose to hang up. All this. You can see your insights here. You can see metadata around the call. And then we didn't cover this one. We talked about dynamic variables, which again, just to refresh people, lets you inject your own custom data that you want the assistant to have context for at the start of a call, like somebody's first name.
Mm-hmm.
The dynamic variable webhook is one way for you to set that. So you can configure here a URL to hit, and we will send, and you can look at this guide here. Let me see. So we send you a payload to that URL that you configure with a bunch of information about the start of the call, right? So, hey, this is a phone call. These are the numbers involved. If stir shaken is set up here, we'll pass in the stir shaken information. And then you can whatever your URL that is receiving this request, you can pass back the dynamic variables to set, right? So if you recognize this user's phone number and you want to say their first name from that, this is how you'll do that. Obviously, that may, while you're debugging that, right, there may be issues. And so the dynamic variable webhooks logs will show you the exact request and response that we saw for that. So you can help figure out exactly if there's an issue, where that issue may have come from.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. That's cool.
Let's see. This is a good one. If you already have experience using VAPI or 11 Labs, we support importing assists from those providers. It's pretty similar functionality. So you can see from this page, you can select, hey, I have an assistant, or I think they call them conversational AI agents, 11 Labs, VAPI, whatever. Again, just pass in, store securely your 11 Labs or your VAPI key. We will import your assistants for you, and vast majority of the time they just work out of the box because we have the exact same feature set.
Excellent.
Last thing I might cover is memory is a pretty cool piece of functionality, is more advanced in terms of setting this up. But you can, with the dynamic variables webhook, at the start of the call, when you respond, like I said, you tell us what the values for the dynamic variables are for that particular call. You can also form a query, and I can show you the dev docs for how to get this syntax. But it's essentially just a very flexible query of all the previous conversations that your assistant has had. And when you send this, you're saying, I want, on this call that's happening right now, I want the assistant to be able to remember everything from these conversations that I'm specifying with a query.
Cool.
Right? So you can isolate for this particular phone number that called in, just show me the last 5 conversations. That's what this is. The assistant will then just be able to remember that live on that call, which might be helpful. Maybe somebody got hung up in the middle of doing something. They had to go. They want to finish it. They'll have access to that. So that's memory. We have a tutorial on that.
Perfect.
Here too. Cool. Those are the main things that I think to help get people started, at least this is also no code, right? No code perspective. You can do all this.
Yeah. I mean, when the undergraduate students get to see this, they're going to be in love, because that's their concern. So this really provides an amazing tool. One question comes from Jungle Mike. Are the transcripts in VCon format? I guess the answer is not yet.
We store the messages because this is a language model that's ultimately interacting on these transcripts. We store it in a format that's really close to what you'd expect from like Completions API from OpenAI. So OpenAI basically has a set of standard within the industry for what a previous conversation looks like with an assistant. I think we'd love to be able to make it easy for people to sort of translate that into any sort of your ideal format, but right now it's just sort of based on that.
Yeah. But yeah, you have to expect these.
Sure. Okay. And then, so in terms of if you want to write your own application, which maybe some people want to do, this is all built on top of our voice API. So everything I just showed you is, you don't have to write any code to do any of it. You can just kind of point and click your way through and have a great experience. But our voice API, I want to get to actual commands. It has a ton of commands that you can control programmatically, like, what you can do in a call. You can see me kind of just scroll through here. And so as one of the commands, right, if you set up the assistant in the portal like we just did, you can reference it here. You just pass the ID, and you can overwrite the instructions too. And so this command will actually kick off the same experience that that you have when you're actually chatting with an assistant in the
Gotcha.
portal. So if you want to build a much larger application that does a lot of other things, and maybe part of the experience for the user is talking to an AI agent, but part of it isn't, it's anything else you want to do here with these commands, you're free to also sort of use those building blocks.
Gotcha.
That's it from me.
Yeah, no, I mean, this
folks have any
is
other questions?
powerful. So do we have any other questions from the audience? No, we've dropped a couple of people because of time. You know how it is. It's during the workday. I'm seeing lots of hearts for what you've presented, which is always good. I'll just pick on John. Do you have anything else? Or are you good at the moment?
Well, I just wanted to mention that Telnyx has an MCP server. James, are you prepared to comment on that, or can you at least point us to that direction if we want to take a look at that?
Yes. And we can help people from a no code and a coding perspective with that. Let me
Cool.
figure out the best way. Let me start with no code. So we're just dipping our toes into this. We have it set up on one page where you can actually chat. It's on my probably. So ask Telnyx AI in beta. I'll just click on the what can Telnyx AI do piece. So this is powered by the Telnyx MCP server. So this is listing all of the tools under the hood that the MCP server has enabled. Let's just do one. Can you list my assistants? Let's see how that goes. It'll basically let you interact. You use natural language and it'll let you interact with the Telnyx API. That's also available as a GitHub repo. You can see the implementation. And so for instance, if you're familiar with tooling like Claude Desktop or Cursor, which has native support for MCP servers, you can configure the Telnyx MCP server as one of the available servers that those tools can access. So you can also use that to help create and list assistants. I don't know what happened here. This is, I'll follow up with our team on this. This one is really brand new for us.
Yeah, no problem.
Expected experience here is you see that it actually lists it out and then it'll describe it for you.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, there's the Discord chat, so you can get in contact directly. So, but again, thank you so much, guys. This is powerful. And I love the fact that you can import, because we're at the experimentation stage where you work with one package and you want to try another, somebody else's service. And then it's like you have to, I've got to redo all this, and just to be able to import. It's beautiful. So again, well done, guys. I'm really quite positive around what we're going to see from the TADHack community on what you'll be able to put together. And as I said, you've had a lot of hearts from the people in the audience as you were going through and showing how you can import different voices. And I know John is excited about being able to do something around MCP. So I'm sure you'll be having some Discord chat with him on that. But again, thank you so much, guys. This was excellent. And I'm really looking forward to, in a couple of weeks' time, seeing all the hacks that get created. Again, take care.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.